Welcome back to Bavs.
Yes, mate.
Fire up your thumbnails. It's transfer season! So we didn't do it. Despite a record-breaking season for us, Man City got their 4th in a row. But all is not lost. If you haven't read this thread on X about the 115 charges, I would highly recommend it.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
But regardless of the outcome of 23-24, the task for this summer was always going to be the same. Improve, reset, and get ready to go again. Edu himself, in a recent interview with The Athletic, said the same. Josh Kroenke's recent comments only echo that further. And Mikel's final day speech was another sign of the club's ambition. We are not satisfied. Every summer is pivotal in its own way, and this one is shaping up to be no less important than any before. So, without further ado, or edu, here are Arsenal's top 5 priorities over this summer window. Genuinely, you should unsubscribe. Number 1, sign and sell well, obviously. Over the course of the summer, we'll go into more specific detail about the players we're linked with, the ones we buy, how we address certain issues in the squad, and so on. So make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date with that. But there's something I want to say that I think is key to understanding this window and actually how we move forward as a club from a squad building perspective. We are very, very good now. Not sure if you've noticed. So we will, of course, try to improve, but the pool of talent that's now able to actually increase the quality in our first 11 is very small. Then when you ask if the talent is attainable, suitable, in the right contract situation, willing to move, the right cultural fit, Arteta likes him, and so on, I genuinely think there might be less than 30, 40 players in world football. Therefore, our attention must be sharper than it ever has been on what we already have. If you literally can't get better than Saka, Rice, Saliba, whoever you pick, if you can't layer on top, then to improve, you have to look down. And we'll need to ask instead, are we maximising every single squad role, all 25 or whatever it is, from every single angle in order to improve? If you could hide in the squad before, you can't now. Leandro Trossard is the perfect example of a maximised squad role. He doesn't expect to play every minute, and his wages reflect that, on around £90,000 per week, according to Capology. He's versatile, he's always available, and hasn't had any major injuries. His contract isn't too long, with 2 years left, and a decision could be made if we wish to move him on without too much hassle. He isn't blocking pathways as far as I see it, and has a great level of experience and age that's rare in this team. And as we know, his output and contribution is unbelievable. In terms of probably your 5th or 6th attacker, what more can you ask for? On the other hand, let's look at Jesus. Jesus is a brilliant player who changed our world when he came in, as Arteta put it. But his output this season has been poor, his availability has been consistently poor, and crucially, he's on superstar wages at £265,000 per week, triple Trossard's. He can contribute all across the front three, which is a big plus. He's experienced, but will he be happy to be used in the way Trossard has been this season, next year, and moving forward? I'm not sure. For probably our 4th attacker, or maybe even 5th attacker, depending on signings, that's not maximised. The question mark is no longer quality, because Jesus is a brilliant 4th attacker. The question mark is that smart fund allocation? Can we rely on him? Is he going to get better to sell him on? Can we get more value from another 4th attacker? Is Jesus' experience as key as it once was? Is it a role he wants to play? Should I ask another question? All this to say, what we might see this summer is a few surprise sales. And when they happen, talent will come up. Thomas Partey, perfect example. But I think when you consider that there's certain positions in the team where you could argue talent-wise, you literally can't improve, then to improve, you have to look at other things. In terms of profiles I want, here's my preliminary list. This is all dependent on so many things, how we fix our left-hand side dynamics, how Timber recovers, certain players' development, and so on and so on. So it's a very fluid list. But generally, here's what I'm missing from the team without being too specific just yet. Number 1, we'll probably need a new second goalkeeper. If we can get our own Ortega, then brilliant, but someone who can provide support for David Raya. I trust the specialist on this, and I'd like to solve it for a significant period. We've had a bit too much change in this position recently for me. Number 2, we probably need one more versatile defender. If we have to have a project, this could be one of the positions. Ideally, this is a player who can defend over the shoulder, obviously strongly skilled on the ball, strong in isolation, no angle bias, probably over 6 foot. And I think with Cedric leaving and with Tomiyasu's record, our right side could look a little thin if we're not careful. Number 3, we need something in the midfield. This is dependent on Partey, Vieira, Smith Rowe, etc. But I miss someone who can carry and someone who can receive high in a block, a la Phil Foden on the half turn. Someone maybe left-sided who can go out wide and contribute to our left-hand side renaissance might be nice. I'm open to seeing with this. Could be Smith Rowe's chance. Number 4, we need a superstar up front, possibly two. We miss height, pace, transitional inevitability, ball striking quality, a moment's player, bravery, an ability to move centre-backs in different ways, ability to separate in the box, and some finishing quality. That could come in the form of one or two players, or out wide or inside. Work that one out, Mikel. But this area needs investment. When we mention major names when linked with Arsenal, I see a lot of, not him, and that's fine. We'll always have question marks over certain players. But as I said, the list of players who can actually improve us is very small. So maybe it's not about having no problems, it's about deciding which problems we want. Finally, this summer, we have to sell better. I don't want any excuses. If we sell Ramsdale for £15 million, as are the current rumours, I'm going to be asking serious questions. That's a future England number one who signed a new deal on moderate wages last summer and having just turned 26, relatively, is one of the most experienced young goalkeepers in the world. Let's be serious here. If that's Chelsea or Liverpool, they're getting 30, 40 million. Edu and Mikel, it's over to you to answer questions on the likes of Partey, Nketiah, Emile, Vieira, Nelson, Zinchenko, Jesus, Ramsdale, and maybe more. Number 2, improve tactically. Again, we'll do more at some point on each element I'm about to mention, but there are some big tactical and game model changes that I expect to see at Arsenal over the summer. Mikel himself, in a recent interview with L'Equipe, mentioned that he's still not yet at the point with Arsenal that he wants to be from a tactical perspective. We normally change something every year. So let's wait and see what it is this year. Have a look at this. This is a graph detailing where teams start their progressive passes on the pitch. Credit to Scott J. Willis on X. Arsenal have a clear imbalance in the team with just how much of our play heads over and comes out of the right-hand side. And here's just another example of another metric alongside touch maps, goal contributions, and so on that shows that. It's actually not that much of a problem to have a favoured side. Many teams, City included, do, but the level of imbalance can't continue. Priority number 1 is fixing our left-hand side dynamics. That will be helped by Jurriën Timber. It might be helped by more instruction to underlap and overlap from the fullback or centre mid or new striker. It might be a new signing, or it might be a dynamic we don't even expect. But we need to fix it. Bayern knew they could put 14 fullbacks on Saka because they felt they could manage our left. And Martinelli, for example, has been singled out as having less to his game from Premier League analysts this season. There's also too much change on that side at the moment for me. I also don't think we cross enough from the half spaces into the box, possibly down to Ødegaard's angles on the right and the lack of a really aerially threatening player. And I feel we're not brave enough between the lines at times. This is, again, partly down to a lack of a player in there who's really adept at receiving with back to play in small spaces high up. So it's a profile issue to some degree, but there have been a number of occasions across the season where I felt we're just that touch too conservative and not brave enough to break the lines. I'd also like to see us manage certain moments better from a game management perspective. For too long against Porto, we were shuffled side to side by a brilliantly organised block before anything changed. Against Aston Villa, it was far too obvious for far too long that something needed adjusting as we lost duel after duel. And against Tottenham, we weren't hurt by it, but our inability to get out of our first phase for a good 15-20 minutes as they jumped early and we went long to no one was a concern. You're going to get found out across the season, and then you adapt. That's football. But there's a few too many cases where something was going wrong for just a touch too long for me. It's very easy to sit here behind a computer and complain about 20 minutes that went wrong in a season. Actually being brave enough and intelligent enough without a rewatch in the middle of the moment to be able to make those changes is an entirely different thing. But again, if we want to compete at the top level, these are the margins. Just a few predictions for next year. I think we'll see Saliba step forward and go on the dribble more. I think Saka will come further and further inside and have a little more freedom from a defensive perspective. And thirdly, once we have some more transitional power in the team, I don't think we'll see games like the ones we saw at the Etihad this season where we sit in and City just allow it. If you can defend your box like that and break on teams properly, teams will have to find a different way to combat us. Number 3, youth structure. David Ornstein revealed in March that Arsenal would be spending heavily on youth players in the summer. In this video, I discussed Arsenal's lack of success at integrating youth players, and I remember suggesting that either way, we have a development opportunity there when you look at the numbers. Why it's happened? Pick your poison. The players aren't good enough, the coaching isn't good enough, we're not giving them enough opportunities. Whichever way you spin it, my point was, and is now, that it's an area of development for the club to take on. We now know the club see the opportunity too, and I know this is a conversation they've had for a long time internally. Clearly, the club feel there is a talent aspect to the picture, so we've already seen some movement on this, which I hope to continue to see over the summer, including the arrival of Braden Clark from Wolves. That said, just quickly, I was really impressed by Liverpool's academy lead, Alex Inglethorpe, when I watched a roundtable of him with Klopp and a few others recently. I love how he spoke about how young players surprise you. giving the example of Jade and Dan's, and that you literally don't know what they can do until you give them a chance on the big stage. We can stockpile all the talent we want, but do we have enough of that mentality at the club? A, you show us rather than we'll show you type mentality. I'm not sure. And I think we might be having this conversation again at some point this year. Number 4, Arteta's contract. Pretty simple one, this. We need to sort out Arteta's deal, which currently expires in the summer of 2025, and we don't want to get into dangerous territory. This should be a formality, really, and I don't get even the slightest sense that Mikel might leave before he delivers major silverware multiple times. We forget how young he is. He has the time to fulfill all of his managerial ambitions, and then some. According to OneFootball, Mikel is currently earning around £8.3 million per year after his latest renewal in 2022. When you consider Pep is reportedly on £19.7 million per year, and even Eric Ten, but Garnacho should have scored, earned, depending on when you're watching this, marginally more than Mikel on £9 million per year, this should be a case of handing him the pen and letting him write what he wants, to be quite honest with you. Put it this way. We pay Gabriel Jesus £265,000 a week. Mikel's salary puts him on around £160,000 per week. Who brings more value to the club? If we paid him Pep's salary even, the highest in the world, he'd be on £375,000 per week. We don't need to do that, let's be sensible, but let's also recognise what we have and reward him for his work. Number 5, brand expansion. Finally, I am interested in how we expand as a brand this summer. The ever-brilliant Clive Palmer appeared on The Ripple Effect recently and spoke about internal conversations at Arsenal focusing on the idea of bringing North London to the world and making that our identity. I hear that as an idea, but for me, the aim must be to harness that to compete commercially with Bayern, Madrid, United, and so on. And I think Arsenal might be best placed right now to take some strides towards those numbers from the chasing pack. The changing of the crest on the kits, the stadium changes, the community connection. I'd like to see some more big ideas this summer to bring Arsenal to the world, possibly using our US connection. I'm also interested in the idea of the multi-club model that we've seen recently. If Arsenal are to continue to grow, you wonder if the Kroenkes might look to invest in another club or clubs in Europe as a place to develop talent, loan players, and try ideas. And I wonder if we might hear something about that within the next few months. This summer is going to be, in a way, incredibly frustrating. Last season, it felt like we had such a crash at the end of the season that the summer was an opportunity to really kind of lick our wounds and see what went wrong. But now, there's no comeback needed. We are at the top table. Carrying that momentum on through the summer, if we can't do it on the pitch, must happen off it. So let's hope we can take some big strides in the next few months. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.